Good to see you, everyone. My name is Robbie Howell, and this is a good friend of mine who you might recognize.
Hello, hello. My name is Lee Haber. Nice to see y'all.
He's a good bean, and he's an excellent player of games. He's been with me through thick and thin, and today he's gonna, well, not actually play yet, but we're gonna set up a lifetime life for him. Now, what is that exactly? Well, that will hopefully be illustrated soon. But if not, that is kind of okay too, because as I will be getting into, Lifetime is very much a game of mystery, which is part of what makes it fun. So, uh, to start off, Lee, do you have any immediate questions before I have you start filling out things on your little sheetaroonie over here?
Nope. I think for now I'm good to test and in interest.
Yeah, alright. So, to give a tiny bit of background, there is a second page on this document. I will be linking this document in the description of the video, by the way. Not Lee's version, but like a neutral version. Um, actually, could I link your version? I'd
Oh,
make it. Yeah,
absolutely.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
Nice. So I'll be linking Lee's version of this document in the description down below. But to summarize, Lifetime is played more similarly to, what's a better way of putting this? One plays Lifetime similarly to how one would live or simulate living in a fantasy novel. So it doesn't have a lot of hard mechanics. In fact, it has almost none. Instead, it is played off of lava fundamentals. And what are your lava fundamentals? Well, as the player, you ask questions and you describe what you want to do. And as the conduit, that's me, the host of the game, my job is to give him information and respond to his questions, effectively act as his senses and his lens into the world of the game. One, I officiate the world of the game, resolving calls and making things happen as is fitting for them to happen. Two, and I act as NPCs. Three. That's it. In Lifetime, you speak with your own voice. Namely, there is no acting component in Lifetime. You can if you want. People have. But there is absolutely no obligation to do so. And we'll get into a couple of the rules there in a little bit. First of all, for creating your starting life, what we're going to do is I'm going to have you fill out all the things that are purple on this sheet. And then based on those, I will generate for you 4 options. 3 of which, I'll do that on the spot. 3 of these, you can ask me any question about. We can go into depth. You can say, oh yeah, I like, what is this like? What is that like? The only restriction there is I don't want to take a long time doing it. And you can pick any of those 3, or you can pick a mystery option. The mystery option I give you literally no info about, and you're just hurled into it without having any understanding leading it. But for me to generate those things, we need to fill out your setup. First things first, any questions so far?
So far, it all makes sense to me.
Nice. Uh, Let me just check if there's any other interesting mechanics to go into before we start. Well, I guess we can look at those later. Slash, if you want, you can look at them more in your own time. Let's start with the focus words. The focus words, very simply, are going to act as focus words always act. They're just going to be baseline inspiration. As per usual for me, a focus word can be up to a short phrase, and there's no other restrictions. I do not care what you do with them.
So first one.
Yeah.
First hole. Definitely. Oh,
You know what I
there's
like.
there's the first one.
Yeah.
Um,
Lovely. Already the ideas are a-flowing. Also lovely. You're in a very poetic mood today, Lee.
I am, and I was just about to switch it up with take that. You know what? I'll do. Am I allowed one more? Or do you want to keep
5. You can have up
Oh,
to
5.
5.
Oh, up to 5. Okay.
Yep.
Uh, Yokels. I don't even know how to spell a yokels.
Yeah, L
Oh,
and E are
yokel.
yeah, yokel, obviously.
I don't speak the yokels.
That's perfectly fine. Would you like to read off your focus words?
Absolutely. So the focus words I got. So first off, I have Old Lombardy. Second one, Golden Moon and Crimson Sun. The third one, What Once Was, Is. Fourth one, Jazzy Jeeves. And number 5, Yokels.
Nice. Beautiful.
Because you gotta start off, one way or another. I personally like to be a little elegant and then mess it up later.
Yeah. I'll ask you to go into more depth about your thought process in a little bit, but let's move on to your asks and gives. So, asks and gives, you can do none of these or you can do all 5, but what these are specific features you'd like to be present in your life, as mentioned. An example, I'd like to be wealthy. That is an acceptable ask. You can get pretty crazy with your asks and gives. The difference between an ask and a give is something that is negative, or on the face of it, negative. And if you ask for something positive, such as I'd like to be wealthy, you have to balance it out as best as you can with a give. Or do an ask that is both positive and negative. Now, if your asks and gives aren't balanced, I am much more likely to throw in a twist.
Oh.
So I will monkey's paw you unless you take the opportunity to balance it out yourself. And monkey's paws in Lifetime can actually be really fun. Like, I won't give too much away, but in summary, it's one of those games where being weak can often be really enjoyable. So it's mostly a matter of preference.
Interesting. And I assume that in the Lifetime there is there it's not just set in classic real world. It's fantasy
Oh, not at all.
environment. Yeah.
In fact, it is never set in the real world, but we'll get to that in a moment.
Um.
I shouldn't say
Okay.
never. I have
It
almost
can be, but it's
Yeah,
rare.
exactly.
In that case, I'm definitely going to go with just a classic one of uh, I'd like to have magic,
Beautiful.
but that magic is forbidden.
Also, very fun. Now that one's fun because buff. The buff.
Forgive me, I fat fingered at H in there.
My fingers are fat as well. This one's fun because it is not explicitly positive. It will like tend towards positive, but you're kind of building in a monkey's paw already.
Listen. Chimpanzees in their hands. I too am an enjoyer.
Indeed, it is no longer a monkey's paw. It is a chimpanzee.
That's what we're gonna entertain, guys. Good to see. No, that's a good one.
Oh, thank
Chimpanzee. I'm gonna have to put that in out of context.
you.
Anyway. Yeah. Yeah. And then what's another good ask?
You do not have to have 5.
You know what?
You
I'm
can
just
have 0.
keep it at. I'm gonna keep it at that. I'm gonna keep it at 1, and I'm going to. Hold on. I'm actually gonna have 1 give, which. I'd like to be. What's the right word? What's the. Uh. Yeah. Screw it. I'd like to have a bounty on my head.
That one's so fun as well. There's tons that I can do with that one.
I should write head. I would like to have a bounty on my have. Oh boy, we're starting off real strong today, folks.
Perfection.
Alright, I'll keep it at 2.
The next one is the peculiar scale. And these two are the main ways that you can kind of control the world building for your world beyond your focus words. The way I describe the peculiar scale is it's about how relevant your real life existence and what you know will be to the world that you go into. The one thing I will ask, for the purposes of this being the first time we're playtesting this frickin' version of the game, is you don't go higher than like 6. Just
Oh,
like,
okay. I was gonna give 7, but I guess
yeah,
I'll give you 6.
just because when you get to high on the peculiar scale, it can become extremely meta and hard to kind of like, I don't know, break
Have
into.
you ever had a 10 on the peculiar
I
scale?
have not, particularly because in previous versions of Lifetime, the peculiar scale was not explicitly listed. I just winged it. So, but I have had what I would now describe as being 8s and 9s on the peculiar scale. Next, the
Ah.
quotidian scale. I think that the descriptions I have for both of these are pretty good, but just for people who would prefer to listen than to read. The quotidian scale kind of allows you to determine what genre of fiction you are in. Are you in fated destiny, heroic, epic shite, or are you in slice of life where you're tending to your day-to-day activities and finding great enjoyment in the simple things?
But that I will give a 4,
Excellent
I
pick.
think.
This
Especially
is
with what
one.
I've set up so far.
Yeah, you can go either direction with this one. I don't give a shit.
I'm gonna take a 4 because
Yeah.
I'd rather be the Lancer than the protagonist here.
Next is going to be your starting thread. If you wouldn't mind scrolling on down to the next page into the explicit mechanics section, would you mind reading aloud thread just so there's another voice besides mine?
Yeah, of course. Thread. A self-assigned in-game goal around which your personal plot will wrap. Once your conduit deems you have accomplished your current thread, you may create a new one. You may also snip your thread, ending it early but incurring a lingering and portentous downside. While your starting thread should avoid specific details such as names, dates, etc., all threads should have a clear success condition and may be rejected if your conduit needs more specificity.
Now, do you have questions about that, or did I do a decent job of explaining that there?
So from so effectively, this is what sort of angle you want your story to go towards,
Largely, yes. It is
at
one
least
that,
initially.
yeah, you can change it, and of course, once you accomplish your starting thread, you can assign a new one. But it allows you to have a very open-ended but also driving factor behind your gameplay.
Interesting. All right, I've got an idea. I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
anyone can pick up seeing what I've done so far, but I'm definitely looking. I'm my alignment's definitely on the more lower right corner of the grid so far. I need to achieve. Okay. Um. So for my starting thread, I'm 1 to 3 lines describing a goal. I think for me, it's I need to make amends for a past misdeed.
Beautiful. That's actually a really good starting thread. It's both open ended, but also once your life begins, it will become quite unambiguous what that actually means in the context of the life you're in. Once you're actually in your body in game, you'll be able to be a lot more specific with your threads just because at that point you'll know more about the world and the characters inside of it. You know what I mean?
Indeed.
And the last of your setup are going to be your folds. I have a little checkbox, a little checky boxy system. And the way I would describe folds is that they are like skulls in Halo. They rather dramatically change the fundamental mechanics of the game. However, they are all hidden. You don't know what a given fold does, and you won't know what it's doing when it appears in the game, and in fact, you might just completely miss them entirely. Some folds will require a focus word. Just fill it in on this little thingy that I have here. If you want to. And this is one of those ones where in absolutely you don't have to pick any of them.
Oh, you know what? Am I allowed to pick 3?
You can pick literally any number of these.
Cool. I'm going to pick Pleach, Chrysalis, and Whisperer.
Oh
And for
God.
Whisperer, my focus word. Uh, yeah, Whisper. That's a tough one. Yes, I have an idea. Um, my focus word for Whisperer is going to
So
be
good.
Simulacrum.
What a good word. And you need a number, 1 to 10.
Oh, a blind boy. 1 to 10. I don't know what this means. I'm gonna be dangerous and say 8.
Sick. Okay, that is really, really exceptional. There's an awful freaking lot I can do with this. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is, now that we have your setup finished, shall we take a brief blitz through the mechanics section and just kind of summarize it just in case?
Yeah, of course, of course.
Something that's different from a game like Enclave or some of the other games I create is that in Lifetime is a very metagame focused game. Since there's no acting component, you are in many ways very much encouraged to both talk to the conduit and also make use of stuff that is technically outside of the bounds of the in-game world. Does that make sense?
Indeed.
To that end,
Oh,
pardon? Oh, do you hear the
no,
baby?
I hear the fuff.
Wah. Yeah, he's having a hard time. Poor guy. 1 second.
Wow.
In Lifetime, even though I'll often use the term character colloquially, and it's fine to, the technical term for your in-game avatar is your body. And again, this is to kind of iterate that you aren't playing another character unless you explicitly want to. And even then, there's no one holding you to that, you know what I mean? So in Lifetime, when you're given a life, you are inhabiting a body of a pre-existing being in the world of the game. I have some details about that here. If you have any questions, please let me know. But the other thing of note is that the way that Lifetime actually runs is in turns. The way a turn works is that it starts off wherever your last turn left off, and it can be literally as long or as short as you want. Either the player or the conduit can say, I'd like the turn to end at this point. If it's up to me, I'll usually do it at a cliffhanger.
Oh.
Because I'm a poo.
I too would enjoy hanging from cliffs.
Yeah. Does that seem congruent? Do you have any questions?
Oh, that all makes sense. I'm looking at the, all the mechanics sort of make a lot of sense,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the concept of turn to turn.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so time skipping. That one's easy. We have that in Enclave and in other games, probably. But the difference being is that in Lifetime, you have a lot more control as a player over when you want to initiate a time skip. Transcending. This is a fun one. In a game like Enclave, again, or similar, I don't know if this is the case in Dungeons and Dragons and other tabletop games, but you're not
Also, in Dungeons.
That's the thing. Yeah, you're not really supposed to do stuff that your character wouldn't know, right? In Lifetime, you're encouraged to do it. It's just called transcending. You don't have to declare that you're doing it.
Robbie, I would like to transcend and use an umbrella because it's probably going to rain, even though my body doesn't know what rain is.
Another point that was a big thing, and when I was first doing Lifetime, it was like my only game, is that you can also transcend from stuff that you've learned watching other people's turns, or stuff that you learn about the world of about a world that you're in a previous life. Like, you can do all sorts of stuff with it, and it's encouraged. Similarly, recalling lets you do that with your body's knowledge. So since you're inhabiting an existing being, you can actually kind of pick stuff that they should or would have known before you entered them, and make use of it in game. It also would let you do stuff like, say your body was previously a woodworker, you wouldn't have to explain to me how you're woodworking something. You know what I mean? Your body knows how to do it, you leave it to do it. Does that one make sense? That's kind of a funky one.
That makes sense. It's the since you're stepping into a body, it's like checking the body's pockets and being like, oh, this was in here, cool. The ability, like the knowledge to make rope.
Exactly right. And this one you do typically want to declare a little more unless it's obvious. And it's a very common question in Lifetime to say something like, do I know this person? Or have I been there before? Or something like that. Then, undoing. This is when people definitely make use of pretty substantially in Lifetime. Again, one of those things that gives you a lot more freedom as a player. Only things is that you can't chain it, and if it's something that's like, if you do something and then it gets really entangled in a bunch of other actions immediately, the conduit might not let you undo it. You know what I mean?
Makes sense.
The filter is one of the most confusing mechanics, but have you gotten a chance to take a look at it?
I've been reading it now, yes.
Yeah, sick. How would you summarize how the filter works?
So the filter is a sort of the filter is the ability to say, say in conversation instead of having a full conversation. With the filter on, you say, we're gonna talk about, last week. We're gonna talk about brunch. We're gonna talk about, old gangrene Joe who's lost another limb, down the road, and the filter allows you to sort of bypass that time, and instead it's sort of, oh, okay, these and bypass like the words that are spoken so that it would make sense in the context of the body that you're in and the world that it transpires in.
Yeah.
But if you turn off said filter, going from whatever dialect, you now have your voice is what is now coming through, or at least something closer. So say you're like, for example, there's an example thing of eloquence filter here, in the context of what a filter is, or sort of set what your voice is saying.
Yeah.
So you can have it off and speak as yourself. You can add something to affect how you sound. So you don't have to, if you don't want to, put in the extra work to do so.
Yeah. It's also there in case someone doesn't want to act.
Yeah.
Just because a lot of non-actors have played Lifetime, or especially in contexts where, if you're a very common one, say you are in some sort of epic showdown or something like that, and you want to say something cool, and then it just sounds dumb, the filter helps you there and makes it so that the opponent in game can respond as though you said something cool. It's one of those things that allows the game to flow a little bit better, not to mention making it so that every time you say like a real world slang term, everyone's not like, what's that mean? Because that just gets extremely tiresome.
Yeah. If I drop into the body of of King Archibald Gunfrick, and I say, I walk up in the room all like, yo, what's up, fuckers? Can I cuss? I can cuss.
Yeah, you can. That's gonna
we can bleep it. We can fix it in post, folks.
No, I'm not gonna fix it. That's just how it's
But
gonna be.
I doubt that King Archibald would walk in and say such words, but he has his demeanor.
How now, fellow countrymen?
But if I so chose and said, no filter, what's up, fuckers, that spoke out of the king's mouth.
And then every single advisor is like, a cup now? What was that?
What are these? What is that sound you just made? I've never heard the word.
The filter is assumed on by default, and also as a conduit, assume I have a mild filter as well, just because, especially for slang and terms of phrase, it's just so annoying trying to pick out every single instance of something like Jesus Christ. Like,
yeah,
just obnoxious. So, filter. Big thing, usually in the background. And lastly, releasing. Releasing lets you end your playthrough and start a new life. As is mentioned, there's two different types. One is a standard release, means that your body will carry on kind of with the same prerogatives and personality that you had when you were playing it. And a full release means that the body will effectively wake up out of a coma and not remember a moment of the entire time you were possessing them. One of the unusual things about Lifetime is that ending a life is in no way a failure in Lifetime, not even a little bit. And so use your release strategically, especially if you feel like, yeah, I've really accomplished what I set out to do with this life. Release. That's super respectable. Another one is, if a life just isn't as fun as you were hoping it to be, releasing is 100% respectable as well. Does that make sense?
Makes total sense to me.
Yeah, because the goal of Lifetime is that it is a platform for intensely personalizable fantasy narratives. That's like the way I'd summarize it. That's the elevator pitch for this game, you see. So now that we have kind of like an assessment of the different mechanics in play, what I'm going to do is I'm going to generate for a little bit. And
All right.
while I'm starting to generate, because I'm going to come up with these suckers right off the bat right now, and while I'm doing so, Lee, would you be all right with, even though you don't have much to go off of, would you be all right with kind of giving an assessment of why you made like the focus word, ask and give, blah 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 choices that you made, and what sort of like thoughts and feelings you might have going into Lifetime completely blind? I might interrupt you because I'm going to be generating these one at a time, right?
Yep. Absolutely, no worries.
Yeah,
So,
I will turn off my
yeah,
camera.
no problem. So, just going through, I'll go step by step from the focus words to the folds, all of them. So for my focus words, again, just quick reminder, I picked Old Lombardy, Golden Moon and Crimson Sun, What Once Was Is, Jazzy Jeeves, and Yokels. So for Old Lombardy, Lombardy is a region in Europe, sort of between sort of Italy and southern Germany. My geography ain't perfect, and
Switzerland, I believe.
Switzerland. People get mad at me. They're basically German French people. Anyway, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But I picked that region if only because Old Lombardy, the architecture and just the setting is very beautiful to me. It brings about both like vineyards and forests and hills, and I personally really enjoy, at least in a fantasy setting, I really enjoy medieval settings, even like early into mid Renaissance, depending on where you define timelines and all that. So that's one. Also, not a lot of people have heard of Old Lombardy, and I know good Robbie has. For Golden Moon and Crimson Sun, I figured, you know, the moon is mostly silver in most depictions, and I wanted something else that was sort of atmospheric, but could also be referencing some elements that are more celestial, more divine, something to sort of possibly influence. A lot of civilizations since beginning have looked up to the sky and been like, oh, that's what's up there. And if what sort of world would grow under a golden moon and a crimson sun? What once was is. For that, I was just trying to be a little poetic and eloquent there, but at least in retrospect, I do enjoy what it might add. It means that concept of resurgence, the concepts of past coming back to you, which means it'll be really fun to sort of dig into maybe who the body that I'm inhabiting is going to be. Jazzy Jeeves, I felt I'd been a little bit too eloquent, and figured alliteration, humorous couple words that'll be interesting challenge to throw at Robbie. And same thing with yokels. It's also just a fun word to say. Give it a try at home. Yokels. For my for my two asks and give thing, I'd like to have magic, but that magic is forbidden. I like magic. Who doesn't like magic? The ability to say, I turn that into a that, and it happens in this sort of beautiful or maybe more grotesque fashion. That's very intriguing and opens up a lot of options depending on what sort of world and what sort of life I'm dropped into. And then I'd like to have a bounty on my head means that there's going to be a level of urgency sometimes, and there's going to be a level of this underlying I must progress. I can't get comfy. And while I like being comfy, I don't like it for too long, especially for a story. There needs to be that sort of drive, and I feel that if there isn't something sort of that isn't, I want to get power, I want to get rich, it's some sort of self-preservation which needs to push somebody forward. So I figured that would be an interesting little tidbit to throw in there, especially with what once was is. That can really tie in later. With the peculiar scale, I mean, a fantasy realm ain't a fantasy realm if it ain't weird. Like we're so used to modern mythology, but centaurs are kind of weird. Could you imagine meeting a centaur? No, you couldn't. Don't even lie to me. So having it 6, just on the cusp of what's allowed, for at least for this setting, to show what weird and what strangeness can come of a world. It's gonna be very fun. With the quotidian scale, which is again 1 to 10 of what your purpose and sort of impact on the world is going to be. With 1 being very simple and sort of you're living in your own space, and 10 being much more grand and important. I figured a 4 is just important enough that I might get into some fun, wacky, semi-national shenanigans that can, really add the pressure on whatever is present, but also not so crazy that I'm constantly, the center of the world. I like to watch the world move around me and move with it, than be this sort of driving force. And for my starting thread of I need to make amends for a past misdeed. What I've already shown above, at least with my asks and gives, is that I have access to some sort of forbidden magic and I have a bounty on my head. Now, I don't yet know the body I don't yet know the bodies I'm going to be dropping into, but that past misdeed could be there's a lot of places that could take me. I could be making amends with it because I actually want to. I could be making amends with it because I need to survive, and also it means I can dig into what misdeed it will be, and it could be something. It could even be something benign, but making amends isn't always easy. So that should be very interesting to see how that is sort of ties into everything else. And now for the last three, for the folds, which I'll read them aloud again for people in case it's. I know you have it up, but I like talking and I'm filling time. So the first, so we have alcove, chrysalis, fulcrum, hubris, immaculate, nemesis, omphalos, pleach, sandglass, whisperer, and zero. Now, I don't know what any of these means. Robbie's not told me. But the ones I felt I wanted to keep myself to just 3, not to be too complicated. So I chose chrysalis, pleach, and whisperer. Now, I know what a chrysalis is, and I know what whispering is, but I don't know what pleach is at all.
Let's
That
pop
word.
back in. Pardon the interruption, but I have come up with your first life.
Oh.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a basic assessment, namely the name, in this case, species, because they are not a human, occupation, and a couple of the surroundings of their existence. If you hear me typing, it's because I'm going to be sending notes to Lee via Discord, so that he has a comprehensive log of what we've discussed here and what's been established. So, you are going to be offered the body of Nus, spelled Gnuss. He is a ngasid. This is a species. They are fiberglass golems, for want of a better term. That's the elevator pitch. He is specifically a seer, also known as an Eviv, who has a connection to a goddess called Kerathom. He has predicted an apocalyptic event. Questions?
Despite not being humid, great.
Human.
I'm humid. Despite not being human, I'd assume, do I still have 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head, or are there multiple limbs?
You do.
Tail? Horns?
You are bipedal, but, and it's a rather large but, you have a unusual, not an organ, because it's more esoteric than that. It is what could best be described as a gravity tether that allows you to, at will, change the force of gravity to be wherever your feet are pointing.
Oh my goodness.
All
do I
members
still have
of the species have this, by the way.
Do I still have arms?
You do.
Oh, good. It's cool.
I'll
So
say bipedal humanoid.
bipedal humanoid. Perfect. That is a gravity tether. Oh, that's interesting. I get bent, Spider-Man. I win.
Any other questions?
Yeah. Who is? I'm a supplicant of a goddess. So who is Kerathom, and
Excellent
what is?
question.
What are their tenets and whatnot?
Kerathom is somewhat. She does not have explicit tenets. Let me try to write this down.
Or at the bare minimum, like her domain.
Yeah. She is an antediluvian creator god. So she's kind of fallen out of favor, to say the least. In fact, it is illegal to even mention her name.
We better commit some crimes.
She is a rather mysterious figure, even to those who know her well. Other questions?
Ding. Yeah. Does she have any known symbols other than her name, which has fallen out of favor with the common
Absolutely.
populace?
Sure. Her main symbol is that of what I'll call the inverted crescent. So instead of like a crescent shape like this that we would know, it is a crescent like this, more like an arch.
Oh, okay. I see. And I predicted an apocalyptic event. Do I have? I assume I wouldn't have specifics, but are there? What elements of this event have I predicted? Or has Noose predicted?
Yeah. You can say I. You're absolutely welcome to use first person, even if you haven't embodied the body yet. How would I describe this? It is not a destructive event, but it will be one that brings about the end of civilization as your people know it.
Oh. That's heavy stuff. In that case, fiberglass golems, do they bleed?
No, they do not.
What would cause one to die?
Excellent question. There are, in this case, 3 major threats. Obviously, severe trauma. They can be rebuilt, but it's time-consuming and very painful. Painful? Second of all, the light of the sun will slowly kill them. They are a people who live in darkness, or not darkness, but in moonlight, shall we say. And lastly, heat. Though heat also is what they use to repair their bodies.
Yes, that would make sense, but too much of a good thing.
Indeed. And obviously, you will likely find a great many other threats, but those are the most substantial / unusual.
Interesting. Cool. At the moment, no real questions on for Noose. What does a Noose look like?
Nus and many of his species are rather spindly and, like, hunched by human standards. They would... In fact, let me write this down for you. Spindly and hunched. They don't have faces like we would know. Their faces being more shaped like very elaborate axe heads. Like, have you ever seen those beautiful European pole arms when gunpowder was starting to be introduced?
Yes, the ones that have all the different little sort of accents and curves, as well as blades.
Yeah. So they would have that sort of like cool, weird features, but from the front extremely thin, and from the side like long and elaborate.
And do they have sort of hammerhead eyes, or are they still sort of front-facing?
Hammerhead-esque eyes, but they have 360-degree vision.
Aha, dragonfly.
Indeed.
No sneaking up on me, unless I'm wearing a hood or something.
And last thing I would note is that they have a good deal more fingers than a human has, though a good deal fewer toes.
Interesting.
11 fingers per hand.
Yeegang. All right, yeah. At the moment, no questions.
Excellent.
Yet. There's more will formulate, I'm sure.
At this point,
but there are other lives. So. There are other
lives. And I'm going to generate the next one. While I am doing so, I will ask that you, in addition to going over whatever else you didn't touch upon yet, give some of your thoughts on the life that I have presented you with, so that people can hear a little bit of your thought process.
Of course. yeah.
Yeah.
Soul. At least initially. So, right, order of operations here. I'm gonna circle back to where where we last left off. We were talking about the folds. And yeah, I think I've pretty much almost finished it up. I don't know what I assume that the chrysalis fold is something that's going to be something that allows my body or life or something to sort of evolve and transcend more in some manner. I don't know if that's in a sort of emotional or even a direct physical sense. Whisperer, I feel like there's going to be something sort of feeding me information and feeding me, something, some sort of uh, reason or purpose or even sort of doubt, depending on what it is, but something that is there's going to be something telling me things. I'm going to be getting messages from another thing. And again, I don't know what pleach is, so we'll get to that when we get to that. But now back to Nus. The concept of a fiberglass golem, incredibly interesting. They're probably, despite being rather durable, they're also probably flexible and they can fit into tight spaces. And not having blood or anything, I wonder, do they even need to breathe? Which is very interesting. I also like the concept of being a seer. Seers. People don't give people with the foresight and sort of wise men enough credit in fantasy. I feel too many people look for, just they're like more like classic wizards. I'm a big fan of people like diviners and augurs and like. This is a little off topic, but oniromancers, so dream mages that deal with the concept of the magic that's in sleep. But very, very interesting to be a seer. And hey, predicted an apocalyptic event. Who knows? Maybe we'll live to see it. Maybe we won't. But I don't know if that's why why there's a bounty on my head, or why, or maybe if, or maybe even the misdeed was the prediction. Maybe I wasn't supposed to see this, but we'll see. Or not. Never know. And then the supplicant of the goddess Kerathom. I'm sure anyone who's watched this, who's met Robbie, knows that I don't know where he pulls these names from, but they're always fantastic. It's a antediluvian creator god. So, non-biblical sort of pre-classic monotheism creator of the universe, the world, some aspect of reality. That's definitely something fun to be a supplicant to. It's a lot of power in there, even if it's mysterious power. Power is power. It's gonna be hard to pray to her if I can't really mention her name. And maybe if I dive down this life, I'll be able to learn more about, bring more to light on who this god is, and maybe even bring them back into favor, or not, or help someone else too. And then but it's very interesting. I could see this going many ways. I could see this being sort of a I could see this character being very villainous, or even sort of surviving and existing in a world that doesn't really support the views that he's assigned himself to. But it's gonna be it could be quite interesting, and the gravity tether, just being able to say, this is my floor now. Can't fall ever as long as there's a surface nearby. That's very interesting. I wonder that could be very interesting to see. I wonder what would happen if two Nasid, the race that this life is, attach their gravity tethers to each other, and sort of just spun for a while. Maybe that's how they mate. I don't know. But I wonder what things Noose has seen as a seer, other than, of course, this goddess, this apocalyptic event. Very intriguing. I need to get a new camera. It's making me look ugly. Oh, that's just me.
You're beautiful, though.
Oh, thanks. And maybe, especially if there are no explicit tenets for this goddess that I am a supplicant of, it could be interesting to maybe be, transition from seer to prophet. That's, I mean, the think about the Romans, right? Romans weren't too keen on the Jews being Jews, and then Jesus, and now Christianity's here. Maybe I can pull one of that with good old Carathon, or
Now,
not.
I'm ready with your second life. I'm hoping that this one will be just about as different as you could possibly imagine. Your second life
Seven.
will be that of Ab Viseras. He is a human in his 60s, and he is a flesh shaper of great ambition. He has overtaken the town of Thorogne, and now every citizen there is a homunculus of his creation and under his direct control. He's been on the run for over a decade. His only possession he retains is a locked trunk, which he carries everywhere. And his homunculi are exceedingly realistic when he needs them to be, a necessity due to his life on the run, because he can't leave many clues. Pretty much everyone knows he's around and knows that he has these capacities, so he has to be good at simulating real life. Questions?
Wow. So first of all, what is I have assumptions as to what a flesh shaper would be. One who is able to manipulate, skin, blood, other things to either change shape and form. But what? Give me the specifics. Tell me.
Yes, indeed. This allows you to take life and living matter and turn it into other life, even if that life is normally not a thing that exists or would be completely unviable if it evolved naturally. Effectively, if you have veins, you can make a thing with veins. If you have nails, you can make a thing with nails, etc. So you're recombining living matter. Although, again, not plants. Like I'll specify animal matter.
Animal matter. All right. Very interesting. Um, and the town of Thoron. So I assume that all the every citizen was either slain. Am I able to do this on living matter, or can it be, or is it dead matter that is then sort
Either.
of
If it's
revived?
dead, it should be recently dead, though.
Okay. Interesting. And now every citizen is a homunculus. Ooh, very interesting. You have to make sure to. Do I have to water my homunculi?
They do have to be fed, but fortunately, when you're working off of an existing framework that's pretty good at sustaining itself, you can just kind of command it to keep going about its daily day, like its day to day.
Yeah. And I'm sure I can add, I can add and subtract as I wish. Okay, why? I mean, I assume I'm on the run because flesh shaping. But what led me to be discovered that caused this Abviscerus to be on the run?
Originally, he brought forth his power as a potential panacea to the ails of humanity. So he originally was saying, look at this great gift I have. I can use this to fix death and disease and all manner of deformities. I can do almost anything with this. It didn't go over so well.
Understandably, people, for once the miracle cure is real and nobody accepts it. Ugh, I still haven't sold my quartz crystals anyway. Has been on the run. What's in this locked trunk?
That question I will not answer.
Fair enough. But I'll have to open it myself.
Yeah.
And the homunculi are realistic, do it, and they necessity. Yep. So what sort of force is he on the run from, other than just the world saying, "Get this one, please"?
Pretty much every local potentate, lord, or authority in a several 100-mile radius. Even criminals.
Ooh. Even criminals. So, and what is the bounty on my head? If there, or if, is there actual money?
The price is nothing more or less than a fiefdom, as well as a substantial religious. What's the word I would use? What's it called when they give you permission to do stuff you're not normally allowed to do? Allowance, like and substantial religious allowances.
I assume that the religion of the land is very strict.
No, it is not actually very strict.
Oh.
In this case, it's less a you don't get punished and more a we give you shit sort of deal.
Likey. Uh, how long does flesh shaping take? I assume it takes some element of time, but is it the sort of thing that I could sort of do and shift something?
Oh yes, you absolutely can. It's fairly fast on small scales. However, on bigger things, it either takes a long ass time or you have to work with existing framework.
Fair enough. Interesting. Oof. Great ambition. And what is his, as I would sink into the body, so what was what were his goals prior?
That's another question I'm not sure I want to answer. I think the best fit. Here's how I will put it. It was not originally his idea to publicize his powers. I will leave it at that.
Fair enough. Oh. Interesting. Do the homunculi have any sort of explicit weakness? Do they, other than, being, they're still just flesh. It's not like, I don't need to come in with an oiling can. Check in on them from time to time.
No. Homunculi do have one crippling weakness. Their weakness is that they cannot learn. If you're working with an existing framework, they'll know things that framework would know. If you're working off a bird, they'll know how to fly and dig for worms or whatever. If you're working off a human, they might even retain the language, but they cannot learn.
I see. All right. No, I don't think I have any questions there, but that's a very interesting power.
Excellent. Any other questions about the life, or shall we move on to your third?
The moment, I like what I know about Abviscerus.
Excellent. In that case, please, if you wouldn't mind continuing a bit of a monologue, including your thoughts on Abviscerus, while I generate your last one. Be right back.
Absolutely. Whew, this is a guy. I don't know,
Look at this dude.
Abviscerus the Flesh Shaper sounds like a Magic the Gathering planeswalker or commander to me. This feels like definitely like maybe a Bant commander that is, some sort of, pay X, where X is target creatures, either converted mana cost or power or something. Sacrifice creatures, search your library for a creature of equal mana cost or converted mana cost or power or something. Put into the field, that creature has haste or something. I don't know. I feel like that would be very interesting. Or maybe like couldn't target artifacts or something. That could be cool. Hey, Wizards, sign me. What an interesting man. And it's always a shame when people who are given such an interesting gift, like the ability to, split apart and reconfigure the physical life essence of things, are then shunned because, that somebody didn't want that. It's a poor guy. I mean, he's got he's got Viscerus in his name, so maybe he's not the sweetest pumpkin in the patch, but definitely an interesting character. I don't know. Maybe if anyone, those of you who watch this, put in the comments if you had Abviscerus's power. What would you want to flesh shape? Put your homunculus ideas down in the comment section below. That'd be neat.
That's a fantastic idea, actually. Yeah, if you guys were presented with these lives, which one would you take and why? Thank you, Lee. Great idea.
I think sometimes, maybe if I'm lucky. But wow, the town of homunculi. I wonder I wonder how lonely this guy gets. I mean, sure he has these homunculi, but like they can't learn and they can't really adapt to him. He just sort of controls them and has them do what he wants. And yeah, if he's on the run, yeah, well, maybe hey, if I choose this life, maybe I'll try and find someone to be on the run with. Every Bonnie needs their Clyde, and every Bonnie and Clyde needs their hidden machine gun ambush. We'll get there eventually. But yeah. And good man. There's definitely gonna be a lot of people looking for me, so I'm definitely gonna have to get used to sort of blending in and moving stealthily. But luckily, I've got these homunculi, so I can sort of send them about to gather for me. That'll definitely be interesting. Ooh. I wonder what extent sort of like minor flesh shaping I can do, sort of like maybe even on on Abviscerus himself, so to allow myself to sort of move from place to place without being recognized, since I have a new face every day, haha, or even new height, or this would also be good. This would be very interesting, just to spend days experimenting and seeing what I can combine, what I can't combine. Like this is like real life Spore. If anyone's ever played Spore, which you should, we're not sponsored yet. Go play Spore. It's a very very good game from the early 2000s. But
I
this is
spent
like
many
real
an
life.
hour trying to make Spore work when I was younger.
Oh, I've played enough Spore. I've been to space with Spore. It's a good time.
Oh yeah.
But I'm already imagining just sort of like just in a free time, just sort of morphing one being from one form into another. Uh, I wonder how much it hurts, or how. Well, I guess since I can sort of control the literal nervous systems, I can make it hurt or not hurt. That's an interesting concept there. Ooh. And yeah. He's got an ambition. Maybe I'll take on that ambition, experiment, see what sort of things I can graft into this magic, this flesh shaping. Very interesting concept. And I guess for this one is just a new objective: survive. Yeah, well, at least with Noose, there's sort of stakes over, like grand stakes of there's this apocalypse coming, and maybe I should do something about it, maybe I shouldn't. If anyone's watched Don't Look Up, current events, might as well throw stuff out there. Good movie, very very well written. But with this is a lot more, a lot more open ended. It's not as sort of here's these sort of things and sort of move around them. I mean, sure, with Noose I can just sort of sell all my belongings and move to the this world's equivalent of Spain. But with Abviscerus, might be a little bit more difficult. So definitely be interesting to see where that goes. Oh my! And he's been on the run for a decade, so everyone's looking for him. Everyone knows his face, so he's got the bounty. So he probably already knows some tricks too. So I'll definitely be able to use the recall function of being able to tap into my body's knowledge a lot. Sorry, just swapping between tabs there. Very interesting. Yeah, I'm sure this is good. I can put on my own musicals if I find a traveling theater troupe. Even if they can't learn, if they know music, they can music. So that'll be fun.
Excuse me.
I won't have to cook for myself either. This is good. And yeah, I can be as grotesque or non-grotesque as I wish with this. I can be very clean with my flesh shaping. But I think we all know where it's gonna end up. Just a lot of birds with a lot of dog heads on them. Just they watching them try to fly with the weight. Can't succeed without failure.
I am ready with your last one.
Good, I'm running out of words.
Yeah. Okay, this last one you're going to be receiving is that of Pyle. He is a ringbeard, and the ringbeard are a race of what I will call civil giants. They get to about 9 to 11 feet tall and are born with a beard that reaches their feet. Pyle,
Those poor mothers.
indeed, lots of chafing. Pyle is a very young Ringbeard, and he's the son of a noble of not incredible consequence, but some consequence. The young of Ringbeard society are actually somewhat venerated, especially in general, being young is important, but especially if you are some young Ringbeards are born speaking a divine language that they lose as they get older. This is a celestial tongue, right? Pyle is such an individual, but the language that he speaks is said and prophesied to be one of evil. As such, his father is hiding him, such that because normally these gifts would be sought out by councils to train and hone, but in this case, Pyle's father predicts that this will end very poorly. Pyle is very well liked by the servants and peasants and freemen of his manor, which also includes several other species that are subservient to the Ringbeards, but hold kind of a second class but not terrible class position in their society.
Yeah, they're not on the bottom rung of the caste system.
Exactly. And there isn't a true bottom rung. It's just like Ringbeards, everyone else.
Interesting. And this celestial tongue is, as of yet, sort of untrained and untested.
Completely
Given
untrained.
that he's young.
Though Pyle has done a little bit by himself. He only knows, he knows a lot, but he has only dared speak a little.
Probably because he doesn't want to get, found out, or have people sort of reveal him.
Yep.
How able are these are Ringbeards at his age, whatever this age is?
Yeah, Pyle would be the Ringbeards live a long time, but Pyle would be the equivalent of a human 6-year-old in age, but a human 12-year-old in capacity.
Does he have, other than his celestial tongue, does he have any other very clear sort of notable features?
Yeah, in fact. So Pyle's main, because the tongue is secret, of course, yes. The main thing that is notable about Pyle beyond that is that he is, as mentioned, well liked, and part of the reason for it is he actually is fluent in almost every language of the Ringbeard realm, and he loves using them and makes heavy use of other languages.
Very cool. And I assume this doesn't diverge into other celestial tongues.
No, it does not.
Interesting. What has he done so far with his celestial tongue?
I will give you one example. One example of a thing that Pyle did with his celestial tongue when he was very young, and honestly, his parents didn't really understand what was going on with it yet. Even is that he spoke a celestial word to a mirror, and the next person, and he thought it did nothing, and the next person to look in that mirror died of what seemed to be terror instantly.
Wow. He didn't even mean to.
Mm-hmm.
Or he did. Young minds.
Other questions?
What is his father's profession? Other than being noble, what sort of things does he do as a noble? Does he have a vineyard?
Mm-hmm. So Pyle's father's fief, I guess we will call it, is a trading hub, and Pyle's father came to rule this trading hub through a combination of wartime exploits, as well as a close personal friendship with the son of a very powerful lord.
Ooh, that's a good time.
Other questions?
Uh, hmm. What are there sort of classes of, not in classes for, but classes of celestial tongue? Like, can two people be born with the same
Yes.
sort of? Okay. Uh, like, what are some examples of sort of common, more common ones, or things that are like, oh yeah, everyone knows Joe with the chair celestial tongue. He speaks and it turns into a chair. You know.
uh, it would be less the how to describe it. A lot of the more common ones have a slew of powers that, on the face of it, might seem kind of disparate, but have all been fairly well documented. Instead of going into detail about a bunch of specific powers, an example of a language could be, though they don't really have one of these, this would be like, if this existed in our world, there would be like a North Star tongue. So a tongue that was effectively related to what we know to be the North Star, and as an example of what their equivalent of a North Star tongue might do, it might affect wind.
He's only spoken like a one word, and that word caused
He's had a
someone
couple
die
other
of
he's had a
terror.
couple other experiments. That was the most prescient one.
That's the one sort of like, this is how we know it's bad, because it did the bad. Interesting. Ooh. Oh, very interesting. And what is overall sort of society like in in Pyle's realm?
Um,
Like,
yeah, Ringbeard society is what I would describe as extremely well entrenched and stable feudalism.
but yeah, now comes the option where I pick one of these three or the mystery option.
Yeah. If you go for the mystery option, you will learn literally nothing about it until you start play, and at that point, I will give you a tiny bit of information, though you will not have an open Q&A.
Well, yeah, definitely. For those of you who are watching, type in the comments which one you would pick
Yeah,
and where
absolutely.
you think you'd want to go. These are all because because this is a format that I'm sure people could take home, and I mean that's the goal, obviously, but
Certainly
yeah,
is.
you're sort of getting a real view on sort of what it's like to what sort of parameters you create around, and then what can be created from it. This is
Indeed.
very interesting.
And to clarify as well, I have not actually hosted Lifetime in, at this point, almost 3 years, and it's been 10 years since Lifetime's golden age back in high school. Like it was the second game I made that really took off, and so for a while I was hosting Lifetime upwards of 20 to 30 hours a week. So this is a bit of a return, a bit of a nostalgia trip down memory lane for me. So yeah, uh, of these three options, Lee, which do you pick, or do you wish to pick the mystery option, which I will give you zero information on until we start play?
You know, as much as I like the thrill of going for the mystery option, which is what I would normally do, I feel like at least for this, because I would like to possibly produce more, so more people could look at more of this. I think this is tough. I think I'm going with Pile of the three. While the first two are super interesting, the concept of this celestial unknown sort of spoken word magic that rings very close with me, and I really like that. I would love. I I'm still super interested in the on the run homunculus boy and yon apocalypse lad, but I think the young giant with untold power for which he's hunted. That's top tier.
Beautiful. In that case, when you guys next see us, we will be playing the first turn of Lee's new life in game, where he will be playing as Pyle, the young Ringbeard. Lee, do you have any final questions for me before we sign off?
No questions on my end, Rob.
Lovely. Well, in that case, please let us know what you think about this entire process so far. What are you looking forward to? What are you confused about? Is there any questions I can help answer for you? And if not, are you excited to see where this goes? Join us next time when we begin our official Lifetime journey with Lee. And until then, my name's been Robbie Howell.
My name's Lee Haber.
And ciao for now, everybody. See you later.
We release.